So moving on, let's talk about gear for level 3. So a setup gear for level 3 for your home studio. Again, we're trying to stay mobile. We're trying to stay very versatile in how we work. We don't want to have to be bogged down to staying at home because we have a vocal booth there or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I am proposing the type of producing that allows you to be mobile. All right, so a lot of the gear on here is going to be just like level 2, but I'm going to quickly jump to things that are more specific. As far as your platform, I would definitely try to have 16 gigabytes of RAM and solid state drives. There's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of it is just speed and fast and just watching your computer just work quickly and be able to process multiple things at once. As far as the DAW, I still recommend Ableton Live. I would definitely just stick with the standard edition unless you love something in the suite version. Ableton Live 10 is just coming out, and there's some great new features in that. I'm going to probably be upgrading myself. Audio interface, definitely go with the UA. Just do it. If you have the money, go with a universal audio. They just came out with an interface called the Arrow, which is about, I think, $4.99, so it's quite a bit cheaper than this. It looks amazing, and you're able to load up emulations of incredible hardware in your interface. So it still has the same amount of capabilities. I'm not sure how it compares as far as power, but definitely UA interfaces are the way to go. I have no other suggestion besides that right now. Room acoustics, the same thing. Again, if you have a lot of money, definitely get better acoustic treatments than this. But for what we're trying to do, we're trying to kill 80% of the reflection in the room. You can do that through just using these types of kits. These what do you call them? Acoustic reflection killing kits. Monitors. Now, monitors is something that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on. I am no expert on this. I chose the Polonis. Chris Polonis is a really famous mixing engineer and has amazing gear. I went with a recommendation from somebody that already had these, and I ended up getting it. This doesn't show, but it comes with a sub also that I recommend. So there's two pieces to it. It is expensive. It is definitely expensive. If you're going to go with something like this at this price range, do some more research. Don't just take my word for it. Do some research. Look into a lot of different speakers. Ask other mixing engineers. I love these. I use these all the time. But if you're they're small speakers, but there's a subwoofer that goes with it. So it requires 2 amplifiers, and these are passive speakers, so they don't have amps in the speakers. You have to have separate amps. So that's quite a bit of setup. They're not very mobile. That's not something I ever take on the road with me. I just, when I'm on the road and working, I'm always just with my headphones. But when I'm at home, I really like using these to monitor. Yamaha makes amazing ones. KRK makes amazing speakers, but there's a lot of different speakers. So do your homework. Get on YouTube, look up different types of monitors, because there's, oh, by the way, when I say studio monitors, it's the same thing as speakers. In the studio world, they call speakers monitors because you're monitoring sound. Okay. So that's used interchangeably. Headphones, I still would go with these. I love the Shure SRH 940s. They're just amazing headphones. Keyboard, of course, I don't recommend any kind of big workstation. I love controllers. I think that's the way to go. Have all your software, have all your synthesizers built into your computer and in plugins, and invest in software, not in big hardware synthesizers, unless you really love that stuff. If you just are a gearhead for that kind of stuff, go for it. But for the rest of us, tweaking the ADSR on an external keyboard is way harder than just doing it with a click of a mouse. So I recommend all your synthesizers be software, and using just keyboard controllers like this one. I love this one. This is the M Audio Keystation 61. I like the Oxygen 61. Whatever you want to use on that. But I keep it very simple when it comes to controllers. As far as a mobile one, same thing. I'd recommend this one. This is the Air 25. I like it because it's Bluetooth. So if I'm at a coffee house, it's less wires to worry about. It also has a cool little mod and pitch wheel, which I use quite a bit. Microphones. So I love this mic. I've gone through 3 or 4 mics, and this is the one I've really settled in on. This is a mic you see a lot in studios. It's called the AKG C414. It's an incredible condenser microphone. I use it, of course, paired with my eyeball, like you see there in the background, and it just sounds incredible. Highly, highly recommend this. It's a step up from the level 2, which was the C214. So this is the better one. If you can afford this, I would go with this. It's a great, 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 great mic. As far as dynamic mics, the Shure SM7B is a highly, highly recommended dynamic mic. I would recommend that. I also use a Sennheiser 421, which is right here, and it's about the same price, maybe a little bit less. I love this more for talking and for podcasts and things like that. But if yeah, it's up to you. Do some research on that. There's a lot of what they call shootouts between different mics. If you go to YouTube, they show you, hey, a shootout between this one, and they do a bunch of comparisons. So it'll help you do some research on that. But this is a fantastic dynamic mic. It's used all the time in studios. Acoustic treatment for microphones, of course, I don't recommend getting a vocal booth or building a vocal booth. I think that's too much work and time. If you already have that, awesome, use it. But when you're on the road, this is an amazing, amazing thing to use. I talk about it all the time. I'm not going to keep going into it. Go back to the level 2 if you want to talk about it. If you want to hear me talk about it. All right, software synthesizers. My go-to is still Omnisphere. I use it on every single song I have has something from Omnisphere in it. I love it. It's such a more organic and incredible hybrid between natural sounding things and sampled instruments, as well as synthesizers, incredible synths. If you're doing a lot of EDM, you're going to want something like Massive, which I talk about in the other tutorial. As far as bass, I love the the virtual instrument bass from Spectrasonic, same company. They have a program called Trillion. I talk about this in level 2. Amazing stuff. Ample Sound also has some amazing bass guitars, acoustic bass, upright bass, things like that, which I highly recommend. If you want something a little bit cheaper, let me know. VI acoustic guitar, I go with Ample Sound. Love their stuff. I also have the Taylor. This is the Martin guitar. I have the Taylor. I've got their ukulele. They've got incredible stuff. If you just click here, it'll go to their where you can buy that. And yeah, they know me and they know what we're doing. Just let them know that you're from the Triple Threat Artist. Okay, ukulele, same company. I use this all the time in all my tracks. There's a couple other ukulele software I use, but this is my go-to. This has way more flexibility. It allows me to customize my strum patterns, which a lot of them don't do that. A lot of them are you just select a strum pattern and you're stuck with it. So this one allows you to do a whole lot of flexible stuff. Highly recommend it. If you're going to have a ukulele software, this is the one to have. VI drums, battery. Definitely battery. I still go with that. I have 3 or 4 other drum instruments, but this one I use almost on every track. And I'm customizing and tweaking things constantly. I love battery. It's a few years old. I think they need to update it a little bit, but it's still a fantastic instrument. Vocal tuning. Now, this is where I would recommend, for this level, the level 3, I would recommend the studio version of Melodyne. The reason why is because if you have a bunch of tracks you're stacking together, you can visualize all those together and tweak and line things up visually. It's fantastic. It also does a lot of polyphonic tuning, so you can tune a piano, you can tune a guitar. I don't know how it works. It's magic, but they've got a lot of great tutorials on their site. This is a little bit more expensive, and there is a little bit of a learning curve involved. But if you can afford this, I would highly recommend it, and I can help you with understanding how to use that. Now, if you want to use a drum controller, there's a lot of different pads, and if you're a drummer, you probably need to have a virtual drum set, like a electronic drum set, like a Roland V drums or something like that. Those are amazing because if you're a drummer, you can get the feel and use sticks, and you've got your pedal, and you're playing it as if you're playing the drums instead of tapping it out. Now, if you don't have that, and if you're not a drummer and you want to use a drum controller, I love the Push. Ableton has a program. This is specifically designed for Ableton. So if you're using Ableton, this is a great one. Akai has a great one. Native Instruments has an amazing one called, I think it's with Machine, it's called. This is the one I like because I use Ableton. But I'll be totally honest with you. It's a lot of fun to play with, but I don't use it that much. I'm not a big fan of drum controllers. But if this is the way you work, this is the one I would recommend. And the amount of, this also is used as a sequencer. You can use the little steps as a step sequencer and arpeggiator. It does a lot more than just tapping drums in. It's really pretty cool. Secondary synth, I always go with Massive. I think that's an amazing program. I also have Silent. It's a great program as well. Yeah, there's some great articles on the best software synthesizers to use. I would look those up. The company ADSR has some great tutorials on that. All right, virtual percussion. So when it comes to Asian percussion, my favorite by far is Cinesamples. It's called their Drums of War. And they have two programs. This is their second one. I like them both, but this is the one I'd go with. It's $99. I think it's usually cheaper than that now. Love their samples. I'm a big fan of Asian drums and percussion, like, what do you call it? They call them, taikos and daikos, sorry. If you ever watch Battlestar Galactica, the TV show, the new one that came out, Bear McCreary, the composer, used a whole lot of Asian percussion, and I fell in love with those sounds. I use these a lot in a lot of different instruments. The sticking behind it, just the big booming sounds of Asian percussion is amazing. I love this. I've used other Asian percussion instruments, and that's the one I would recommend. VI Strings. Now, Cinesamples also has a strings program. This is supposed to be amazing. I don't have this. I use one called LA Scoring Strings, which sounds incredible, but it took me an entire summer to learn how to use that. It's really complicated, and so I can't recommend it. It's not user-friendly. If you are a composer and you're really getting into composing, you're going to need some great string samples. If you want something big for composing, then yes, definitely I would recommend LA Scoring Strings or Vienna Strings. That's another one. But if you just want strings every once in a while and stuff, and you want it to sound really good, just as a little support in your song, I would go with this one. Cinestrings, made by Cinesamples. They sound amazing. And their way of inputting information into their software and recording is way more user-friendly. I have their horns program also called Cinehorns. It just sounds fantastic. It sounds like a big orchestra horns. What do you call it? A horn section. All right, VI Brass. Now, if you're looking for quick brass, but it's not like a big orchestra, but brass like, just a cool sax part or trumpet part or sort of New Orleans stuff, this is the program that I love. VI Sessions, made by E Instruments. It's called Session Horns. I love this program. I think you buy it through Native Instruments. They do have a pro version, which gives you a lot more options. I don't use the pro version, but I kind of wish I had it sometimes. But I love this. This is their basic version. You can get some amazing riffs and cool stuff that sounds so totally real. It's sampled off of great instruments. So highly recommend that, and it's cheap. Stomps and claps. Now, I have a lot of stomps and claps programs because I do a lot of ukuleles and Mumford & Sons, Lumineers type of music. So I need good stomps and claps. I love this one. It's called Smack, and it's a great one. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Anyway, lots of snaps, claps, stomps. Great stuff in it. I'd sometimes mix in other ones with it. I don't always stick to this program, but if I had to choose one, this is the one I would choose. It's made by Big Fish Audio. $99. It's amazing. Vocal chops. If you want those cool little vocal chop things that you hear like in The Weeknd or in a lot of different Tiesto and a lot of electronic type music mixes in this. Chainsmokers do it all the time, where it's like these little vocal chops that are almost sounds like little I don't know what they sound like, but this is a great program for that. I love this. Love this program. It gives so much flavor and freshness. This is a very in sound right now. So if you're looking for that, go with this. It's made by Output. Everything Output puts out is ridiculously good. This is no exception. It's called Exhale. Go with it. All right, VI Pianos. I love VL Labs True Keys. This is an amazing program. They've got I think there's 4 pianos that come with it. They sound fantastic. There's like grand and upright and yada yada. Really good stuff. Omnisphere has some good pianos in it, but this is the one I would go with over that if I'm just looking for a basic piano. The kick drum. Now, the kick drum, I talked about this before, but I would definitely go with this program. If you're doing any kind of electronic music, you have to have this program. Or hip hop. When you can control your kick and tune and time it for every song on the fly and choose a different attack and click to it in transient, it's so incredible. It makes you're producing so much faster. Highly recommend it. Banjo. This is a tiny little banjo program, but I love this. It's made by Realitone. It's silly looking. In fact, when you play it, you'll see this little character start dancing around with this banjo. It's hilarious. I really like this program, though, just for little banjo parts. Now, if I was doing a ton of banjo work, I would probably look for something a little more advanced than this. But every once in a while, I need a little banjo picking in my stuff. This is great, and it's $39. They also make a program called VI Whistle. Though this is for a human whistle, so it sounds like someone's whistling. Amazing. $19, and it's seriously, they should charge a lot more than this for this because it's such a great, it sounds so totally real. There's two different types of whistles, a normal whistle and an airy whistle, and you can mix the two together. You can add several more voices in it to sound a little thicker. Incredible whistle, $19. It's a no-brainer. If you're doing Christmas stuff, you're going to need sleigh bells. I went through a lot of different sleigh bell type programs. This is the one that I highly recommend. It's made by Sonokinetic. Incredible stuff. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say except they're amazing. I actually did a demo for them and they used it on one of their other instruments, but their sleigh bells program is fantastic. Drum loops. If you're doing drum loops and you're looking for stuff, I'm a big fan of brushed drums. So drums with using brushes. I love this set. It's $32. It's really, really, really good. It's really good for folk and kind of soft rock kind of stuff. They also have a lot of other loop programs, so it's not just brushes. If you're looking for a lot of different kinds of loops, definitely check out the Loop Loft. They're kind of my go-to for loops. Shaker and tambourine. This is kind of a newer one. I love this. It's made by Noise Firm, and these are loops, so it's just tons of different loops, but I use them constantly, and then I'll tweak them a little bit, and they've been fantastic. There's a new shaker and tambourine software out there right now that lets you sort of customize your rhythm, so you don't have to use a loop and go through loop databases. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll look it up and let you guys know. For vocal effects, when you're getting into just the effects of vocals, my go-to is Isotope's Nectar. I think this is the Nectar 2 program. Amazing program. It does other things like pitch correction and stuff. I don't use it for that. I use Melodyne for that because I don't think it sounds that great in here. Maybe I'm not using it right. I don't know. But as far as saturation, effects, EQ, compressors, de-essers, parallel compression, reverb, delay, limiting, harmonization, gates, all of that sounds amazing through this program. It's kind of I use it on every vocal. So, if you're looking to mix really high quality vocals, I would definitely check that out. For an FX delay, there's a little program I like by Native Instruments. Sometimes I don't use the delay built into my DAW. I like this one a lot because it gives me a little more options, and it's only $49. It's called Replica. I recommend it. It's cool. It's just a cool program. Compressor. Now, I'm a huge fan of the 1176. So this is an old legacy type compressor. I love this compressor and limiting amplifier, as they call it. You can't get this without having a universal audio interface. But if you do have one of those, get this as well as this preamp. They're amazing. Or get the SSL preamp. But the using emulated hardware that's created into software and inside of your universal audio interface is the way to go. This sounds amazing. The great thing about the 1176 is it has a very, very fast attack and release ratio attack and release in the compression, and it can help your vocals sound really forward really fast. It's kind of one of my go-tos. I love the sound of it. And as well as I love the sound of this channel strip. This is emulating an API giant console. This is like one channel strip from that. I use this on all my vocals. In fact, my vocals right now are going through one of these, and so I highly recommend it. In fact, I'll show you right now. Here it is. So I'm talking into it right now. I'm using just the preamp, and I'm using a gate. So when I stop talking, the gate kicks in right there. And then I have a compression on it, or just a little limiting. So it just compresses a little bit if I talk too loud. So I love this channel strip. I think that sometimes I'll use it just for the gain knob, just because I love the way it kind of thickens out my vocals and horn parts and stuff like that. Oh, all right. So the next one is mastering tools. Now, if you're going to try to master stuff yourself, there's no other tool that you need. There's no better tool you need than Ozone. Ozone is made by Isotope, and it's one of the most amazing programs on the market right now for mastering. It does so much. There's several different versions of it, so you have to look up what you need. But you can let's see, how do you say it? You can compress and isolate different sections of your mix in the frequency ranges you want, so that you can control the dynamics in each range, as well as do a lot of maximizing, distressing, limiting, EQing. It is such an amazing program. I don't know half of what this thing really can do. I have it and I use it now and then, but I always use an external mastering engineer when I finally go to, not always actually. Sometimes I do master on my own. And when I do, I definitely use this. There is a learning curve involved, but it's highly, highly worth it if you're planning on releasing your own stuff. You need to be able to master your own stuff to get it loud enough to where it sounds competitive. All right. So lastly, tips. Again, I talk about this in the second one, but I want to repeat this. Learn to work with what you can afford. You could spend your entire life savings on gear. Don't do that. Find things that you can afford and do your research. Don't pirate software. It's never worth it. Ever, ever, ever worth it. If you end up releasing something and it goes big and you've used pirated software and someone catches you in that would really screw your whole career. Good gear holds value. If you end up buying really good monitors, for instance, they typically hold their value, and you can usually sell them for about the same price. Or microphones are the same way. Hard drive space is cheap. Don't think twice about spending money on more storage. Always upgrade your RAM if you're able to. It's fairly cheap, and you can do it yourself in just minutes. You go to crucial.com and you can do that really easily. Always have a running backup of all your sessions. It's cheap. There's no excuse not to. If you're not going to have a backup, don't even start producing. Just don't. Your home studio should be mobile. Don't think about getting a desktop. Get a laptop. Get a widescreen computer monitor for home when you are home, and an external mouse and keyboard. It makes things so much easier to work, and you can get a lot more done. You have more real estate to look at. All right. There are three types of mics, dynamic, condenser, and ribbon. Know the difference. Look those up if you need to. But you use those differently on what you're recording. Strive for good headphones and monitors with a very flat EQ response. Never set up your monitors right against the wall. Educate yourself on speaker placement. I talk a lot about this in my course. If you ever need help, if you're not going to go through my class, you can Google and YouTube almost everything. I highly recommend it. There's so much great information out there. Now, be aware, a lot of the stuff that you're going to find is very detail-oriented and can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So I have created a course called The Triple Threat Artist. I highly recommend, if you're a singer-songwriter that wants to be able to produce their stuff a little bit on their own and not have to rely on an external producer, that you join the class. Go to thetriplethreatartist.com. You can sign up. Enrollment is now open, and it's very affordable. And I highly recommend you do that. I go through all this type of equipment. I go through how to setting things up. I go through how to record, the why we record certain ways. And we have a whole community and a Facebook group, and we're supporting each other in this. So if you have any interest in this, I highly recommend you check it out. All right, guys, that's it for this level 3. I hope that wasn't too long for you. I know it was a little bit winded, but I hope you got something out of it.